Hello everyone, I'm Trisha, it's me Jenny, and it's time for another not naked video response to Trisha Hershberger's Zero to Naked Truth, where we talk as candidly as truthfully as possible about a subject of his choosing, straight out the shower, no makeup, wet hair, first take, one take, etc, etc. Most people choose to be naked, I choose not to, but either way it's not a sexy type thing, it's vulnerable and honest type thing, a tool for the vlogger to be vulnerable and honest. And talking of nakedy things, Game of Thrones! Woohoo! So, as Trisha said in her video, we've already done a naked truth on Game of Thrones. I looked it up, it's from 2016 when I did my video response. I will put a link to it in the description down below because a lot of my opinions have not changed since that. Ooh, also, I specifically put this nightshirt on today because I was wearing the same nightshirt 3 years ago when I talked about Game of Thrones before, except my hair was so much longer. But there we go. So trying to carefully not discuss things that I just discussed in my previous video. What's interesting is how few of my opinions have changed since that video. I was going to say a lot of the same things that I said in that video, so now I've got to rethink all the stuff. Like, I was thinking in the shower, like, oh, I'd say this and I'd say that, and then I rewatched the whole video, I'm like, oh, already said all that. Crappity crap. One of the things that I do want to say that's new is I haven't actually caught up on this season yet, and I will, but I've been in Japan and I only just got back. I'm fully spoiled, so there is no big plot holes that are like holding over me. I knew I was going to get spoiled, like my friends wanted to talk about it, everything, so I kind of wanted to get spoiled on my own terms, so I've been watching the behind the scenes videos produced by the Game of Thrones YouTube channel, so I am fully spoiled, and I know that somewhat lessens the overall experience and that immediate shock of all the events, but I knew that wasn't going to be able to watch a full episode while I was in Japan, so I've been carefully watching all the behind the scenes stuff, all of the previously on, all of the Alt-Shift X video analysis so that at least it's on my own terms. But yeah, so I will catch up hopefully pretty soon. I know I have a lot of friends who actually want to discuss things in details, and I'm like, yes, I want to, but I need to actually catch up. So yeah, things that I didn't discuss in my previous videos. One of the things I didn't discuss is I love, like, generally for Game of Thrones, spoiler free, one of the things I love about the world is it's like, I think I said in my previous video, it's like Game of Thrones, but it's like Lord of the Rings but for TV, but it's such a different way of looking at fantasy. It's very grounded, it's very real, there are almost no additional races, as in magical races, other than humans. The vast majority of characters are human as you can get. The only variants on that are Targaryens, who are slightly unusual, but you could just say that's a general racial thing. The Children of the Forest and Giants, all of which within this world are semi-mythological. Obviously in the TV series some of them do get brought to life, but there we go. And so it's very grounded, it's very realistic. There's no dwarves in the bearded things with an axe type way, or elves, or fairies, or, you know, those sort of things you don't have. And in the same way, and this is a phrase that I've used, and I'm surprised I didn't use it in my previous episode, my previous talk, there is a phrase that I use often to describe realism in fantasy. And the phrase I use is, where's the poop? Which is a rather uncouth way of saying it, but I don't need a description of the poop, which Game of Thrones gives plentifully, but the realism of certain circumstances, the classic scenario where heroes are trapped in a circumstance for, say, a day, or 2 days, or 3 days, and at no point does the story explain what happens when they need to deal with certain bodily functions and such like. Now, Harry Potter does it brilliantly, because Harry Potter in almost every single book features bathrooms, and they don't need to go into detail, I don't need details, but once in a while I like to know that the characters are human in the most human way, and Game of Thrones definitely does that. It covers the primal basics and then adds on top of it a very emotional, complex set of characters, and then on top of that it adds in a lineage a history to the world that's deep and meaningful, and although it has fantastical elements, it is built in this very grounded way. And then on top of that, it has the current plot, and then on top of that, it has the fantastical aspects of that current plot. But it does build from realistic humans, and it explains that these characters are as human as they get. They have moments of fantasy, but it is incredibly grounded, and I really like that as a story element. Now, as I said, Game of Thrones does do that to the extreme. Like, you can't go an episode without finding out exactly what everyone's bodily functions do and do not do. You know, that being said, I appreciate it as grounding, a very, very grounding element. It is one of those things in action movies and stuff where supposedly something's been happening for many, many hours and no one's needed to eat or drink or go to the bathroom or anything such like that. So yeah, that's a little thing that, it's not a pet peeve, but it's a thing that I enjoy to know. Another thing that I've been thinking about, I said a lot in my previous video that like the fact that this is a TV series that does a lot of visual storytelling that you can't access through the book. I love the costumes. I've been doing a lot of like my go-to thing recently when I've had a moment and I'm not really thinking about anything is I love costume analysis for Game of Thrones. I can remember when my hair was longer and I'd started watching it and I'd finally got into it, trying to do like the King's Landing hair wrap thing with the crown styling and like twisting my hair, so I did the twists and planning cosplays. I think I must have done I think I did a video on that as well, planning a Game of Thrones cosplay and kind of having the problem of being a natural blonde and not wanting to associate with Lannisters. And there we go. The costumes are gorgeous. They tell so much about the story, the music, all of the storytelling that comes from well-constructed visual media helps build into this world that is very, very different from the depth of vision that you get with the books, and they're very different but they're equally amazing. What else have I not said? Oh blimey. Okay, so minor spoilers and possible fan theories. So where are we at the moment in the story, and who do I think will sit on the throne? I have slightly complicated feelings given, again, spoilers up to the current episode, and today is May the 2nd. So we've had, I think, 3 episodes of season 8, so full-on spoilers now. Because so few of the primary characters died in the last episode, I am slightly concerned that we're going to have too many characters at the end of the story. It may be that we're holding down for a last final defeat and we are going to have a mass massacre at the end, but I am slightly concerned that too many of the characters do have quite extreme plot armor right now. The fact that only minor characters died in the long night has me slightly concerned. But going on to who I think will win, I think Cersei's gonna die. I think Jon and Daenerys are probably going to die. They have so much Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers. In terms of the traditional media or of morality, they have accidentally committed incest. So there's a lot of things there that I think they're both destined, they both have very high-powered storytelling. And my general theory for Game of Thrones at this point, for the series, not necessarily for the books, I think the books are going to be slightly different, is that this will end with a world without magic. So I think at this point, so many different chains have been cut in terms of magical chains. So the giants are extinct. With the end of the last episode, the White Walkers are gone, the Children of the Forest are gone, the House of Black and White is seriously diminished if it ever had any real magical power to begin with. Most of the werewoods are burned. The most powerful priestess of the Lord of Light is now dead. So I think this world is going to end without magic, and in order to do that I think the dragons have got to die. And if the dragons die, I've got the feeling Daenerys will go with them. And if Daenerys goes, then I've got the feeling that Jon will go with her. And I feel like that would be a great tragic ending to the Song of Ice and Fire. I thought Arya was going to die. I'm pretty sure Bran may die because, again, the death of magic, he is a three-eyed raven, and he's kind of been a little bit of a non-emotionally attached character lately, so audiences aren't going to feel so much of a loss if he were to go. It'll be tragic because he's been there since season 1 and we've seen him since he was a cute little boy, but I've got the feeling that because they've been generally distancing him from the audience for the last season or 2, that I think he may be going to die. And again, if that works with my theory of the death of magic, Arya I thought was going to die too, but given the last episode and the fact that she has finally had one of the... I was trying to think of examples of happy consensual sex in Game of Thrones which weren't arranged marriages, rape or paid for, and I really struggled. I really did. I think I could think of one other one, and I love that apparently that was controversial, that Arya had sex, consensual happy sex with Gendry, and my friend Chris has a theory that Gendry might actually be a trueborn son of Cersei's, because the way that she describes the death of her firstborn is very different to how she describes the death of her firstborn in the book, and that it may be Cersei's firstborn with Robert Baratheon and not actually a bastard, and therefore he is a true heir to the throne, and therefore if she slept with him before the long night, and if we're going with kind of Dornish rules, then she is kind of wedded to him, and that makes her the princess that was promised, because she has betrothed herself in a way to a real king. So there's a lot of things there that could be walked into. So she may sit on the throne by and by. My bet's still with Sansa. And now that she's reunited with Tyrion, I think they're such a cool, interesting power couple. And given everything that she's been through, I think someone who's kind of kind and gentle, and will give her space until she is ready, would be brilliant. And I think she has had so much political training, and she's always been one of my favourite characters, even from the beginning when she was a brat. I think partially because I empathise with her so much, because I was a hyper-feminized child. I was such a girly girl, and in many ways I was Sansa. I was, you know, in no way that pretty or good at putting myself into pretty outfits and doing my hair nicely and all those sort of things, but I wanted to marry a prince, and I wanted, you know, to have the, you know, all the things she does in season 1. I'm like, oh, it's terrible, but this is how I was. I was never the Arya. I was never competent and cool, and she's been through so much, and she's come out of it so strong despite everything. Like, it's a very interesting comparison between Sansa and Theon, where Theon was completely broken by Ramsay, and there you can't compare abuses, but he was completely broken for a very long time, and she came out of it angry and defiant, and empowered in a very strange way, although, you know, empowering anyone through abuse is not a positive thing. And I also find it really interesting that the Game of Thrones showrunners definitely do sex in a very different way to the books, in that there are several scenes that could be construed as consensual in the books, because you have the POV, and there's a couple of scenes that definitely are consensual in the books, which are not portrayed as consensual in the series, which is interesting to me. And I'd say that's one of the flaws of the series, which it helps build melodrama and heighten emotions, but it also is a slightly darker thing for me. Yeah, so that's my thought process at the moment. Blah blah blah. The only bit of merchandise, Trisha was talking about merchandise. I don't know whether or not my camera's still filming. I hope it is. Hopefully I've got space. I'll talk quickly. The only bit of merchandise that I own is my Valadoharis mug, which I bought because like I always need water in the night. I always get very dehydrated during the night, and so it's like, oh, I can have a fancy pint mug, and then I never use it because I'm worried that I'll break it. I'll like roll over in the night and whack my side table. Sorry, my camera. tilt it a little bit. I'll whack my side table and then I'll break it and I'll be really, really sad. But there we go. It's a really nice glass tankard, and I really like it's all men must serve, all men must die, and I like that you serve drinks in a tankard, and also if you drink too much, you will die. And it's very bravo-y, because they all need commerce and you all need a hearse. All people must serve, all people must die. And yeah, that's the bravo-y way. But yeah, I like that mug. It's also weird that it's left-handed, which I think is interesting. In order, like, I suppose it's left-handed if you want to show it off to people, and it's right-handed if you want to show it inwards. Either way, it's a cool mug, which I barely use. In fact, it stays in the box for the most part. But it is the only bit of Game of Thrones merchandise that I own. The main reason why I never buy Game of Thrones stuff is A, the reproductions are really expensive for the most part, and B, then I'd have to pin down which house I want, and everyone's awesome. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. This video is way longer than I wanted to be. I am daily vlogging at the moment. This is going to count as my May the 3rd video. Any video content that I film on May the 3rd will go up on May the 4th video. But there we go, I'm back! Naked Truths, yay! I also have another one to film, but that will come out when it comes out. I just wanted to make sure I got at least one up before Saturday, and then we'll